Week 1 NFL action was absolutely crazy and filled with a variety of ridiculous and insanely high wide receiver scoring performances. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about 3 names that didn't necessarily have those booms in their outlooks for this week. They're players that, to an extent, 2 out of 3 of them at least, let us down for our teams here. And I think that we have an opportunity to buy low on here for week 2 fantasy football action. Of course, if you're new around here, drop down and click that subscribe button. I'm posting multiple fantasy content episodes like this every single day. We've got 4 videos up today, all 4 centered around the fantasy football trade market. 2 buy videos, 2 sell videos. So go watch those after you finish watching this episode, and I'll see you guys there. But we're getting started today. Let's dive into our first buy low wide receiver here for week 2. Let's do it. Alrighty, here the first buy low receiver that I've got that had an underwhelming performance, but I'm still fairly confident on here as we move forward into week 2 is DJ Moore of the Carolina Panthers. It was a very interesting game in the Baker Mayfield Revenge Bowl. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns got him late in that contest and booted a very deep field goal to win that game. But DJ Moore was very, very quiet. He was actually not the leading receiver for this team. As a matter of fact, it was Robbie Anderson for the Carolina Panthers, now Robbiie Anderson instead of Robby Anderson. So very unexpected turn of events there in terms of who was the most productive receiving option for that team. But I'm still feeling pretty optimistic about DJ Moore's outlook for the rest of this season. I'm not super worried or scared off by the fact that Robbie was able to catch 5 of his 8 targets for 102 yards and a receiving touchdown, because plain and simple, 75 yards of the 102 total that he had came off of 1 blown coverage touchdown. The production is something that I don't expect to necessarily be a weekly constant, and something that we're continuously worrying about here as the season develops. Anderson did see, yes, 25% more of a target share in this game. Obviously just having 8 targets versus DJ Moore's 6 looks. But I do think as the season progresses here and as we continue to see the development of chemistry between Baker Mayfield and DJ Moore, I'm expecting things will swing back in the direction of DJ for this week. He played 100% of the Panthers' offensive snaps this past week, which is very, very encouraging. Obviously, just being out there on the football field gives you the opportunity to catch a pass, make a play, and obviously have some, impact in some way, shape, or form on this offensive attack here. So I think, like I said, things should take a positive turn in the right direction here and continue to progress in the right way as we continue to get throughout this season. I know there's going to be some that are scared off by Robbie Anderson, but truly as a player, he is not anywhere close to what DJ Moore represents as a route runner, as a security blanket, as someone that can stretch the field vertically as well. The one thing DJ Moore has lacking in his outlook is the ability to be an elite touchdown scorer. That's just not something we've ever seen him do, but there is very high wide receiver 2 upside at play here, and potentially a very safe fantasy floor if him and Baker are able to establish that connection and get a chemistry rolling here. So he caught 3 of his 6 targets again this week for 43 yards, just talking through some of the production numbers. Like I said, 6 targets versus 8 for Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson having 25% or 2 more looks in this contest than DJ had. But DJ also had a tough assignment in terms of the cornerback play. He was going up against Denzel Ward for the Cleveland Browns, is someone I think that at least when they lined up against each other, have a very good matched skill set in terms of Ward's ability to cover what DJ brings to the table. So I'm hoping and I'm optimistic, like I said, for 100th time here, that things will get better. I will continue to keep my eye on Baker Mayfield and his chemistry development with DJ Moore, because there's a chance, as always, that things don't work out here. But the talent is inevitable. I think that he will ultimately, a guy who saw 162 targets last year, if he can start moving towards those numbers and being a guy that heavily factored into this offense, I see him as a can't-miss player and a buy low candidate here for week 2 action. The next name is Mike Williams. Now, I know I'm going to drive some people absolutely crazy with this take here, as he was an absolute flop this week, and there's some people that cannot stand inconsistent play in their lineups. But with Mike Williams, my argument here is we know what we're getting. You have to understand what Mike Williams represents for your teams. For those of you who are looking for a high upside boom or bust flex play, someone I would argue is comparable to a Gabriel Davis or a Marquise Hollywood Brown, who actually kind of found himself in some weird middle ground territory this week, Mike Williams is a week-winning play on a potential, you never know what's going to happen, but you have the expectation that you're starting Mike Williams in your lineup as, preferably a flex option, an elite week-winning flex option, every single game. And yes, he might flop and only give you 2 receptions on 4 targets for 10 yards and really disappoint you, but he is an absolute dog when he gets the ball in his hands. Justin Herbert is something that gives me a lot more security and optimism about this situation as well. When you're talking about being tied to an elite quarterback play, it makes me a lot more encouraged about your situation and a lot more bullish on what your potential upside can be. And we saw that last year. Mike Williams finished as a wide receiver 1 in fantasy because of how high those highs were. It offset the lows that he had, like this week, and a lot of impatient owners are going to smash the crap out of the panic button and sell the heck out of Mike Williams because they don't want to deal with the sporadicness and inconsistency. So the one thing I would recommend for teams looking to buy a Mike Williams or a Gabe Davis, who looks like he's in the verge of a breakout right now too, but with 1 week of a sample size, we don't know what his consistency level will be. I'm hoping it'll be better than, we expect here, but of course there is that unknown factor as well. The point being though, I would recommend you have 2 firmly established wide receivers in your lineup. Those are going to be 2 guys that you can count on to carry your team as a solid core foundational piece on a weekly basis. Mike Dubb is the cherry on top. This is the guy that puts you over the hump and makes the difference in those boom games, but also having those 2 solidified number 1 and number 2 receivers in your lineup gives you the opportunity that even in a down week, you might have a high enough floor to have a chance to beat your opponent if their team doesn't go completely bonkers. So Mike Williams, again, I know a lot of you aren't going to like this, but I do think it's an insanely good opportunity here to get a player who, in the total scope of fantasy point production for this season, could yet again finish as a top 12 wide receiver. It's just that inconsistency baked into the situation here. We all know about it. It's not a secret, so I don't know why we're acting like it's this just atrocious thing that we can't believe is happening before our eyes. One last thing to note about this situation, if you're looking for that boom game, it might just come here in week 2. They play on a short week on Thursday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs, and Keenan Allen, who, yes, you can make the argument and you can throw this back in my face. Sure, I get it. Keenan Allen's going to be out for that game. It sounds like he's got a hamstring issue. I know there's some people typing already. I can, hear the cheese puffs on your fingers touching the keyboard here. Yes, Keenan Allen did leave early in that contest, and Mike Williams still put up, very, very, very awful numbers. But like I said, it's kind of flipping a coin, If you like a little sweat in your Sunday afternoon games, Mike Williams is a guy for you. And of course, if you just want some week-winning ceiling, Mike Williams is a guy for you as well. Because like I said, there are few and far between in terms of the receivers that have this ceiling and can get to the level of production that Mike Williams can get to in a given fantasy contest in any matchup, because he's got such a good size and speed mismatch against defensive backs and can just maul people in terms of his ability to win 50-50 jump balls. So personally, like I said, he's ideal as a flex or wide receiver role, wide receiver 3 role for teams here with another 2, a pairing of dependable lineup pieces to add him with in those lineups. But I do really like Mike Williams. I am bullish on him here for this season. And again, it's a routine flop and something that is not totally out of the realm of expectations for me on Mike Dubb. And the final name that didn't necessarily flop this week, he wasn't super underwhelming. He actually looked like he was on a mission in the first half against the Arizona Cardinals, is JuJu Smith-Schuster. I cannot get over the fact of how effective he was in this offense through the first half of the game. He had 8 targets in that first half, 6 receptions, 79 yards. He did lose a fumble, unfortunately. However, his role for this offense is exactly the perfect way. And of course, it's Andy Reid. So why would we have expected him to not use JuJu perfectly? But they did everything they needed to do with him. They put him in the slot here and there. They lined him up outside. They ran underneath in short routes with him. They used him so good. And if you're going to continue to tell me he's going to get this type, and if you pace out 8 targets for the second half, it looked like he was on pace for a 16-target game. I'm not saying that's going to be the case every week. We'd be more than happy to see him get 10 targets in a given week. But the fact that he didn't score a touchdown here, he lost that fumble, which kind of deflates that point total a little bit for most leagues that lose points for fumbles. You're going to have a player whose stat sheet, the box score doesn't tell the whole story here. It was clear that Travis Kelce's the 1A option in this offense. JuJu Smith-Schuster looks early like the B option and the guy that Patrick Mahomes next wants to go to with the football on a consistent basis. So, yes, the word from the horse's mouth, that being Patrick Mahomes, is that he's going to spread it out to someone different every week. But I saw a whole lot of involvement from a whole lot of players in week 1, and I saw JuJu lining up out there, getting 8 targets, converting 6 of them into receptions. 75% catch rate is pretty dang good, and a guy that was able to do some work after the catch and be a pretty good safety blanket for Mahomes in this offense. So he isn't going to be Tyreek Hill. He's a completely different player. He doesn't have those burners. He's not a vertical weapon like that. But JuJu is a very, very talented player who's had a couple of rough years. I think his stock has taken a huge hit from those final 2 seasons in Pittsburgh. And like I said, the box score does not do justice to the role and involvement he had in what was a blowout. The reason he didn't get targets in the second half is the Chiefs were wiping the Cardinals clean off the face of the earth, like obliterating them. It wasn't a contest. The game was never close outside of the first quarter when it was, 14-7. So this is a situation and a player that you're going to be able to get at a manageable price for now. But once these games get a little bit closer and the Chiefs have to, pass the ball for 4 quarters instead of literally 2.5, his numbers are going to go up. His not his draft price, his trade value will go up here. And we'll be talking about a player who I think has very, very good wide receiver 2 level floor value for this season, not on a weekly basis. He's going to have some bust games. Everyone does. But in the scope of the season, I think his floor is being a top 24 wideout, and he could potentially position himself if he's consistent enough to get in that fringe wide receiver 1 territory. So go target these 3 players. I'm really excited about them here post week 1 action. Moving into week 2, of course, if you guys are new around here, like I said at the beginning of the video, make sure to drop down, smash that subscribe button, join the community here. Let me know your fantasy questions in the comment section below. Give today's episode a like before you head on out, and go check out one of the other 3 episodes we've got for fantasy football trades here in week 2, and I'll see you there. Peace out.